Hey everybody, this is Matt here at the Home for Wayward Records, swinging by this Tuesday to talk about some albums and a topic I was thinking about this morning, and it kind of relates back to a record I just posted, and that would be Saint Anger by Metallica. Kind of reviled in their catalog. Many people, including probably me, would say it's the worst record in their catalog. For a variety of reasons. And I kind of talk about that in my post about all the things they were going through and some production decisions and, kind of their mental state and a lot of stuff. And it comes off as a record that I would say, is pretty much a mess. But, Jason Newsted had just left. They were going through a lot of internal strife. There's some crazy stuff in here. Robert Trujillo is not in as a bass player yet, even though he's in the picture inside. So, a band in trouble and in transition, and the record kind of sounds like it. And, in all these I've picked out today to kind of talk about, there's a lot of times when losing band members or moving on from things, really has a tendency to not work. You lose somebody and don't realize how integral that person is to the actual sound of your band. So I'm just going to talk about a few things. This is sort of an informal little chat about some records that I have that kind of show what that can be like. So, as we just said, Saint Anger's one where, a band going through a lot of stuff and it kind of shows. Sometimes bands just sort of implode and we move on from there. I think one record that is pretty crazy that shows that like a band that really kind of loses its way. Guns N' Roses, Chinese Democracy. Holy crap. This record was being recorded for basically like 46 years. I'm making that number up. It's huge. There's a bajillion people playing on this. Everybody from Tommy Stinson to Buckethead. Just a ton of people. And generally Axl Rose is really the only person of consequence from what was Guns N' Roses. It's on this record. And other than, I like Better. I like that one. Shackler's Revenge isn't bad. Like first three tracks in, and then pretty much it's just super weird. And it's one where, you give somebody like Axl Rose $1 bajillion and let him stay in the studio for forever, and nobody's there to kind of ask questions or keep them on track, and you end up with something like this. So, obviously now Duff and Slash are back in, and the songs they've recorded have been still pretty weird stuff. I don't think the sound of those early Guns N' Roses records is really recoverable. I think what they are now is what they are, kind of just a touring hits machine. But holy crap, this one, I don't know what you think of it, but it's a mess. We get bands where people just slowly leave, and I think Iron Maiden's a big one. Iron Maiden had fired a singer and different drummer and added in guitar players and had changes over the years, but there for especially the 80s had really solidified their lineup. And, Bruce Dickinson, Adrian Smith, Steve, Nico, and Dave Murray had kind of solidified. And then Adrian left, and I felt the two records of that Adrian were a little off. Janik is good, but something was kind of missing. And then Bruce leaves, and obviously Bruce leaving is huge. And we get the two non-Bruce records. We get the X Factor, and we get Virtual 11, and with Blaze Bayley singing. And to be honest, with him singing, they're kind of a totally different thing anyway. His voice is completely different. It's like going in different direction. But I think the big thing that's always stood out for me in all of these, not just these two, is that Adrian was really missed. Adrian was a huge part of that band and a huge part of their sound. And with him gone, I think that did more to make them kind of seem like they were wandering in the wilderness than even Bruce leaving. And there's some times, they don't really as much anymore, but it was sometimes like the Klansmen and Future Real and a few other songs on here, Signs of the Cross, they've done these with Bruce in the band, and they sound like good traditional Maiden songs with him and Adrian back. But I think missing Adrian and the change in singer, these were really like a weird sort of wandering in the woods thing. It just didn't sound like Iron Maiden really. It's kind of strange. I own them. I don't listen to them much, but I do have them. yeah, and then they came back with Brave New World and everything was good again. And I think they've been on a great run ever since. So, that's Metallica, uh, that's Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden. We have one that I actually like this record. It's totally different, but I like it, and that's Motley Crue. Vince leaves. Vince was out. They just signed a massive record deal, and then Vince is out, and then they hire John Corabi and put out the self-titled Motley Crue record. And I'm going to be really honest. I like this record. I like this record a lot. It's totally different sound. To me, it doesn't try to sound like a Motley Crue record, when it's recorded. There's a little more, there's a kind of a little dark edge to it. It's a little, a little grungier, because that's what was kind of going on. But it really works, and I like this one. And it's not a Motley Crue record. I think, that's one of those ones where having this name on it kind of held it up to a weirder standard that it couldn't do. If it been called anything else, I think it would have been all right. But this one kind of failed based on it's not Vince, and to most people that's not Motley Crue. But I like this one. So we have the John Corabi Motley Crue record. Again, and these are all ones that vary back and forth between working and not working. So let's talk about some that do work. I'm gonna talk about one at least, or one or two that do. Velvet Underground, Loaded. We lose John Cale a little bit back, and we get Doug Yule. And I think, between Lou's songwriting and him coming in, I think many people agree this is one of the best Velvet Underground records. They would totally disintegrate before this was even done. Lou would be gone. They would soldier on without Lou, which is not a thing, for a little while. And Lou would go solo. But this Loaded is sort of like catching that lightning in a bottle. Like what happens to lose some members and it's really good. And I think maybe Lou is free to kind of show us what he's going to become in the years ahead in his solo work. So Velvet Underground Loaded is a sign of something that kind of a band that does work. Back with another one that does not at all. The Clash, Cut the Crap. Joe fires Mick. Topper's gone and Terry's out, and then back, and then we bring in two guitar players. It's just Joe and Paul really, and we record this. It's a wreck. This is England's a good track. This is not a Clash record. If you see anything, I've talked about the box set, everything else. The Cut the Crap is just sort of look past, even when it comes to just talking about Joe's legacy and the stuff that Joe did. This is completely kind of left out, and rightfully so. It's not a Clash record, and it's bad that it even has that on it, because it's not fair to the legacy. So Clash, Cut the Crap is one that does not work. Again, I only play this about once a year on its birthday, and then I kind of quickly remember that I don't really like it much. Like I said, other than one or two songs on here, it's pretty much a mess. We have the Misfits, American Psycho, and Famous Monsters, which I also have. Danzig's years and years gone. He has done Samhain. He has gone solo in his solo work. He's had success. And Jerry, everybody gives Danzig a lot of crap for being a, trash fire of a person. Jerry is no better in any way, shape, form, or kind. Jerry is just as much of a butthole, if not more so, than Glenn. But he goes out and finds, gets Doyle, his brother, with him. He finds a drummer, Dr. Chud. He gets Michael Graves on vocals. And he records 2 albums with sort of the Misfits 2.0. I will say this. If these weren't called Misfits, I don't think they would be as hated as they are. They're not Misfits records. They're just not. They're not Misfits records. The Misfits are Glenn and Jerry. Without Glenn, it's just not the Misfits. I like both these records for being kind of like horror metal, and I think that's the thing to call them. They're kind of horror metal albums. Lyrically they stick, theme-wise, horror movies and things like that. It very much feels like a Misfits kind of thing, but they're not. And that's why most people loathe them. I don't. There's some stuff in here I really, really enjoy. I may be in the minority, but again, I don't treat it like it's a Misfits record. I treat it like it's a, something else entirely. And, in that way, it makes sense to me. Kind of like the Motley Crue, and you just can't call it that and have people expect to take it. Now, Michael Graves has turned into he's like the Ted Nugent of punk rock. He's terrible, and I loathe that part of it more than anything else. But this and Famous Monsters, I don't dislike. It just shouldn't have been called the Misfits. So, you would think you fire Ozzy and you're going to soldier on as Black Sabbath, and that sounds like that could be a terrible thing, even if the last few Black Sabbath records weren't exactly Master of Reality or Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. But when you hire Dio and you record two of the best metal records of all time, Heaven, Hell, and Mob Rules, I'll forgive you. I'll completely and totally forgive you, because both of these records are absolutely effing phenomenal. I love these albums. They're great. Dio fits perfectly. The songs are stronger than been in years. It feels like it just sort of set them on the right path, and they recorded two of their finest records ever. I will say, if I was ranking my favorite Black Sabbath records, both of these would be in the top 5 easily. Both of these Dio Sabbath records would be in the top 5. And I like Dehumanizer too. He leaves and they kind of struggle for years with singers and replacing different people. It basically kind of becomes the Tony Iommi band. And then he comes back, and of course Ozzy comes back later and we get 13 again. But I think both of the Dio Sabbath records are fantastic. I'll also say Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is Nick Cave. For years, it was him and Blixa Bargeld, and that was sort of the Bad Seeds. And over the years, he's ejected all the Bad Seeds, and they've left, and it's been kind of reconstituted. And now, basically, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, it's Nick Cave and Warren Ellis. And I think they have shifted a little bit. The sound is different, but I think that the idea is the same. And I think they succeed just as well as the early stuff, because the songwriting is really good. So Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is one where we've lost a lot of key members of what made that band great, and we've just sort of replaced them with new key members that are also great. So Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is one I think succeeds on a lot of levels. And my last one is one I don't have on vinyl, but I'm a huge REM fan, and I feel especially as a kid of the 80s, those 80s REM records, up through even Green, are amazing. Some of my favorite records on the planet. And then they get Monster and I like those better now than I did. And then we get New Adventures in Hi-Fi, which is phenomenal. And then Bill Berry leaves, and then Bill Berry being the drummer. It seems like if you look at it on just a very basic, the drummer left level, you go like, I don't know, is that really that big a deal? But drummers leaving can be huge. And since REM did so much with switching instruments and doing different things, losing any member of that really hurt. And I think that after they left, immediately after it, we get Up. And I think Up is a good record. Not having Bill, and just having drum machines kind of changes it a lot. But I think it's a good record, and there's some good songs on here. Unfortunately, with Reveal and Around the Sun, we really lose direction and start to kind of wander off for a while, and it really suffers. And I think Bill leaving was a huge part of that. I'm sure, there's things written that have talked about that and the directions that can go. But I think losing one of that core 4 really hurt REM. Now I do feel that Accelerate and Collapse Into Now, near the end, they got some of that back and started writing, songs that were kind of more in a vein that I think worked for them. And again, I really like Up, but I think REM suffered after Bill left. So yeah, that's just some records and bands that I think, where losing members and changing people out either worked for them or definitely did not work. It didn't work out. I think it's, it's easy to think of a bunch where you go, okay, that doesn't work, and I don't enjoy that anymore. And I think out of all of these, out of this whole stack, there's some things in here that you probably greatly disagree with me on. And I don't blame you, because sometimes I disagree with myself on those things. Kind of like saying anger. Like I would have said, you know, and I did say a few days ago, I'm out. But, you know, if you really put it in context, it makes more sense. So that's it. Thanks for swinging by. Please leave a comment. Tell me some records or bands that you either like or don't like because we've lost a member and somebody's moved on and I hate it or I love it or it really worked or it didn't work. And let's talk about it. All right. I will see you Thursday. I'm going to do this on Tuesday, Thursday this week, and we will talk about something else. All right. Y'all have a good week. Talk to you soon.